All right, guys, it is finally time for me to tell you what happened to my AMG GT. Let me give you a little bit of recap because it's been 4 months since something broke. We bolted on the new Valvetronic titanium exhaust system. It sounded great. It really freed up the exhaust system. Before, with the stock system, it was really plugged up and definitely choking down the power. So we bolted on the new exhaust system and went for a drive. Everything was fine for the first half an hour, 45 minutes. Started rolling the throttle a bit more. Felt a hesitation, so I backed out of it. Felt okay. Got back on the throttle, and that's when, well, something catastrophic failed. The rear wheels locked up. At least I was on the street and I was able to bring it over to the side of the road. I guess the drifting experience really paid off there because with the rear wheels locked, there's no clutch, there's nothing you can do. You cannot disconnect the rear wheels. They were just locked up. Steered the car to the side of the road, parked it along the curb, got a tow truck, pulled it back to the shop, and then eventually, a couple days later, I sent it back to the guys at PTG. They have had the car since then. It is finally all back together now. It's been down for 4 months. Parts are really hard to get for these cars, and well, what happened was, well, let me tell you when Steve gets here because he has done all the work on the car. So I want to hear it directly from him so I don't get anything mixed up. But let me tell you this, guys, it was not an easy fix and it's probably not what you were expecting. All right, Steve just texted me. He's around the corner. He's about to pull in the driveway. I can't wait to see this thing. It has been, oh, here he is. Oh man, that thing sounds good. I am so pumped to have this car back. It's literally been gone for 4 months and I haven't seen it since then. But seeing it pull into the shop parking lot right now, it brings a big smile to my face. It's such a rad car. How are you, man?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Here's your keys.
Oh yeah, thank you very much.
We are back. It's a good story.
Yes.
Ready to explain it because I think a lot of people are wondering where the car was.
A lot of people.
Right?
So I think 4 months, right? 4 months ago is when something broke on the car. I started my channel. I bought a boat. We're out there. We're sailing. We're doing all this stuff. Then we're back, and every single video we put up has comments. Where's the AMG? What happened to the AMG? Tell us what happened to the AMG. Well, send it over to Steve at PTG, and well, they did a deep dive on it, and it turns out it was not the transmission. It was something else. It was actually the engine that failed. It spun the bearings in the engine. It only had 400 miles on it at this point, and yeah, I mean, things happen, but I think we figured out why that happened. Right?
Yeah, so the car, before you started working on it, I think it was sitting for like 7 years, something like that. This is a good note to us. It's a learning curve, but replace oil coolers, replace lines, in this case, replace a dry sump tank.
Yeah.
You know, we obviously, both of us cleaned it really well, but we still found debris. You know, we think that failed an oil pump. And I mean, Mike, I sent you pictures of the camshafts.
Yeah.
Like, for the entire engine to lose its lubrication like that,
Yep.
it was unfortunate failure on the field, which we really wanted to dig into, but I think we know the cause of it. It's obviously a very unique circumstance, but you know, we replaced the engine, we took it on the chin. These things aren't cheap.
Not at all.
We didn't want to leave you hanging like that.
When I got this car, it was overheated terribly. The head gaskets were completely toast. Everything was like warped. It was all just heads warped, everything. We thought it was trash. So I pulled the engine apart, took it like 90% of the way apart, and just had boxes and bags of bolts and nuts and pieces. And yeah, I brought them over this just truckload full basket case, like just parts everywhere. And you guys sorted through all this stuff and tried to figure out, after I had already disassembled it, tried to figure out what happened, what was salvageable. And you were also looking like, okay, if we don't have to buy new heads, let's not buy new heads. If we don't have to, because you were trying to save me some money, right?
I mean, we know how expensive these are. If you throw in a core engine, that core engine is, you're going to spend an additional $20,000-$30,000. It effectively doubles the engine cost build. So we were trying to save that. And unfortunately, I think, again, we took it on the chin, but in the end, it probably didn't save anybody anything. But we got to do what's right, and she's back, man. It runs great. It's back together.
I mean, so what looks like what happened is most likely either debris got into the oil pump or the oil pump just failed. So it had been sitting, and if you guys remember when we drained the oil, well, it wasn't oil that came out, it was milkshake and water, right? So it had been sitting like that for years, and if there's corrosion on the oil pump gears or something like that, and now it's basically starting to flake off a little bit, it doesn't take much to kill an engine. It doesn't take much to kill a bearing, but it didn't look like it was just one bearing that failed. It was a whole thing, right?
The thing that worried me was the camshaft.
Yeah.
So you remember the car ran, we saw some codes for that, and that was kind of a telltale sign. We should have probably caught it then, actually. You remember the cam codes?
Yeah.
So we fixed it, but those weren't normal. And what was happening is the camshafts weren't getting lubrication.
Yep.
And the phasers need oil for them to adjust correctly, and it was basically throwing it out of its range. So for it to work its way all the way up to the top of the engine, for sure there was an oil pressure problem, a lubrication issue, and generally, like, if the bearing's taken out somehow, again, whether it's an oil pump or debris, you know, this is what happens. I mean, we went as far as also sampling different oils, which that might be a whole nother episode on how these companies represent their oil, what it actually means, what's in it, what zinc does in oil. These all mean something.
And every engine is different. So one oil that works really well for one engine might not work that well for another engine.
Correct.
And oil companies also change their formula and don't tell anybody. That reminds me, back in the day, we were building a lot of Porsche engines, and they were really, really reliable. We're running like a Mobil 1 oil off the shelf. And then all of a sudden, car after car after car, we started seeing metal in the oil. We started tearing the engines apart, and we had tons of top end wear. Like the camshafts and the rockers were getting tons of wear. So they actually changed the formula, and because of that oil, we started destroying engines. Just that one thing, just the formula in the oil that changed, like, caused us
and honestly,
thousands of dollars of damage.
And that's the thing, like, this costs obviously a lot of money and time, right?
Yeah.
It costs 4 months of your time and
your time.
Effectively a whole engine, really, right?
Yeah.
Because everything was replaced. We didn't want to take a chance this time. Yeah, we learned from it, right? Live and learn, as they say. But
I mean, that's the biggest thing when you do have a failure. This is something that I've learned through years and years and years of racing. When we build an engine and something happens and something fails, just like what I was talking about with the Porsche engines, you really have to do a deep dive, because it's like, what happened? Why is this one an anomaly? Something different is going on here. It's kind of like a forensic type science, right? You break everything down, you look at each component and think about how it could have failed in what sequence. But like you're saying with a camshaft, if they weren't getting enough oil pressure, if it was down a little bit, the oil pressure light might not be on, or the warning might not come on. But if it's at, you know, it's supposed to be at 80 pounds and it's at 20 pounds, well, you're gonna hurt the engine, but it's not gonna tell you anything. So when I'm driving around, I'm not noticing anything.
Well, news break to everybody, these new Mercedes don't even have oil pressure gauges.
Exactly, so there's no gauge in the car. So it's not even gonna tell you unless it gets probably close to zero, and then it might say, you know, failure, shut the engine off, whatever. But it never got to that point until it locked up the wheels, because the engine has completely seized. So all the crank bearings seized, the rod bearings seized, the cams were like,
cams were gone. Seized. I mean, the cams ride on the head casting, so the heads are gone, cams were gone. The valve covers hold the cams down, those were gone. Block was gone, crank obviously was gone. 4 of the 8 Carrillo rods were gone, so at that point we just replaced them. And I mean, it's spattered material everywhere, bearing failure, right? So we weren't happy with the piston and the block now, so that was gone. Again, effectively a whole new engine. We wouldn't have done it any other way. If we saw a failure like this, whether it was your car or anyone else's, it would be a complete replacement. Put this on the side, kind of reiterate your QC process. Like you're saying, it's kind of like a forensic. The more QC process an engine builder has, you can kind of go back and say, hey, you know what, at this point in time we measured this connecting rod, and you know, the width was 1,000th too much. Maybe that was the cause. And you kind of start going from there. But from what we understand, it was an oiling issue. A car that sat so long like this, and generally that doesn't come to us. That was one of the new things. We're working on a newer E63 or a newer AMG GTR. They come to us running with
complete running,
several thousand miles. We know everything's fine, and we replace an engine and it's fine again. This was kind of the anomaly. So again, live and learn. We took it on the chin a little bit, but we're really happy to give this car back to you, honestly, Mike. We want you to enjoy it. And maybe we can show the map switch and stuff too on
definitely
some of the cool stuff, right? We didn't finish all that stuff up, so this time we did. So.
I just want to kind of like tell you guys, here's the real deal. We could have said that it was the transmission. Something broke in the transmission. That was it. Nothing else was wrong. You're good to go. But we want to be honest with you guys and tell you what really happened, because this kind of stuff does happen. It doesn't always happen, but when you're building 1,000 horsepower plus engines and one little thing is wrong, whether it was a bad component from the factory, brand new, which I have seen before, like my building experience is BMWs and Porsches. We were buying Porsche Motorsport GT3 Cup car oil pumps to put them in air-cooled engines. We got a batch of bad oil pumps. There's actually debris inside of the oil pumps from the factory. They're all sealed up, lubricated, and ready to bolt into the engine. And from then on, I found that that's what was killing an engine. Every time I get a new oil pump, I pull it apart, completely disassemble it. It might be brand new in the box, but that's just made me not really paranoid per se, but I touch everything. I want to see every single piece that goes in. With that comes cost, right? Because it's more labor, more time. But you know you're doing it right in the first place. And that's where, you know, definitely trying to work together. I kind of screwed you guys up because I brought you this basket full of parts.
No, but you know, I was very clear. My intent was clear with what I told you. I said we can do it.
Yep.
So if I tell someone we can do it, I will make sure it happens in the end. Unfortunately, it took 4 months longer.
Yeah.
That's the part that bothers me, and people are waiting for 4 months on, you know, videos and stuff of this. And again, content is really cool with this car. I wanted to be as genuine as possible to come in on here and tell you guys it was the engine. It was not the transmission. We're here, you know, to fix the problem. I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah, exactly. Even though we don't know, like,
exactly what caused it, because you can't go back in time and look inside the engine and see, you know, an oil pump shaft that's failing or the gears that like broke or whatever might have happened internally on an engine failure. Sometimes you cannot pinpoint exactly what went wrong because things just blow up.
Yeah.
So
again, this enabled us to understand the QC process better.
yeah.
And that's the best part about this. When there's a failure in the end, it's like, we're going to increase the QC process a little bit. We're going to add things in there. And I can guarantee you everyone after this will get that much better of an engine from us. And that's the whole point of this, right?
Yeah,
that's
it's all a learning experience.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So.
and now, well, this thing is basically all brand new. This isn't the old block. These aren't the old heads. This isn't the old crank. It is a completely new engine. All right, so also when it was over there, they obviously had to have the entire drivetrain apart again, drop everything out of the car. Well, they inspected everything looked good, put all that stuff back together with the new engine. You guys actually changed the turbo CHRAs, right? Also the center sections.
So it was basically a turbo rebuild.
Yeah.
Just to be safe, even though they had so little miles. I mean, that same oil went through them.
Yep.
So the journey of the bad oil going through there was a possibility.
Yeah, it could have hurt.
We didn't want to take the chance, so we swapped. We basically did a turbo rebuild and swapped CHRAs. Obviously, they were brand new.
Yep.
So they didn't need anything else, but just for safety, we did it.
Yeah, so they really like went through everything from the front to the rear of the engine to make sure it was all good. And we did some other upgrades. Before we just had the one map in the car. Well, now we've got 4 different maps and they're actually on an app. So I can switch the maps on the fly with my phone, which is pretty wild. This is some new technology. All my race car stuff, I've got like a map switch or a button or something to change them. But now I got an app on my phone, which is pretty sick.
It is, yeah. So I'm gonna kind of show you how it works. Car's off right now. We got the device plugged in. We're gonna connect here. So it's gonna blink the amount of times on the check engine light to tell you which map you're in. So it should blink once right now. And there it is, it blinked once. We're gonna switch, let me see if I can get the phone in there. We'll switch to map 4 right now, which is your valet mode.
Yeah.
And it should blink 4 times, and there it goes. And
all right.
Yeah, right now it's in valet. If I go to map 1, it'll blink 1 time. So
Nice.
now you got 4 maps on here that'll totally work. So map 1 is your 91 map.
Yep.
It's about 750 wheel horsepower, so that's pump 91. Map 2 is E30, which is about 815 wheel horsepower. Map 3 is a secret map. If you upgrade the clutch, you can use that map.
Yeah.
It's about 1,000 wheel horsepower. And then map 4 is your valet map. So it limits you at 3,000 RPM and about 40 miles per hour.
Nice.
So people can't, you know, hoon around in the car.
Yeah.
Anyone with a Mercedes AMG can effectively have this from us. So
That's really cool.
It's a really cool upgrade, yeah.
So you don't even need to
Have all of the other upgrades. You can actually put that map selector switch and you can just do tuning and have different.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say it's a C63 or an AMG GT. If you want like your, you know, stock car and you want a stage 1 tune, that can be your first map. Your second map can be stage 1 plus on like race gas.
Yeah.
And a valet mode. So you can mix and match up the 4 tunes. It's, you know, it's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah.
No one's doing this on these at least.
Yeah.
So
That's really rad. So
Basically, it's just an OBD2 port like dongle, right? And
Correct.
it's got like a
Correct.
Bluetooth or Wi-Fi.
Yeah, Bluetooth enabled.
Yep.
And the phone sends a signal to the ECU once the ECU is enabled to do it. So the first thing you do is flash through OBD the actual map switch. So the protocol to allow it in the 4 maps.
Yep.
And then from there it'll recognize what the Bluetooth is sending it when you tap from your phone, and,
Yeah.
and then it'll blink lights and do things. It's a lot of tech involved, so it's really cool.
that's very cool.
I love technology. Having stuff like that, it's like the constant innovation and how to make things easier and better instead of trying to add some other wiring harness and really tap into it, or before you'd basically have to take your ECU back and reflash it again to change the maps. Well, now you can do it with an app on your phone. That's just
Yeah, I mean,
that's
the
pretty
car,
wild.
the car allows a lot of technology. They just obviously lock it in.
Yeah.
But if you can harness that and use it, this is the kind of stuff you can get.
If you're going to the track, or if you're on a rally or whatever and you're running pump gas, put it in that mode. If you go to the track or you have some E85 available, put some in there, switch it to a different map. You run low on that tank, you put some 91 in it, switch it back to the other map on the fly. No worrying about it, no second guessing. You've got the check engine light that's flashing on the dash to tell you exactly what map it's in, so you're not guessing. You're not like, I think it's in this map, I hope it's in this map, and then you blow your engine up because you're on the pump gas or you're on the race gas tune and you only have pump gas in it. So
correct.
yeah, this is it's really streamlined. It's really cool. All right, well, Steve, thank you so much for
Thank you, Mike.
bringing the
Thank
car
you
down.
guys.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And
excited to get more content with this thing.
I'm very excited to drive this car. Actually, I'm gonna go for a drive right now. As soon as you're out of here, I'm
Sweet,
gonna
man.
go start cruising around before traffic gets bad. I hope.
Sweet. Yeah, enjoy
Yeah.
it, man. I really hope you do, and do some burnouts for us, man.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Well, thanks again for bringing it all the way down here.
Of course.
And everything that you've done, completely rebuilding another engine and putting it in here, back to the same specs with the Carrillo rods and the CP pistons and
all of that stuff.
all
CNC
of your,
heads.
all of the goodies.
I'm gonna say shout out to the guys at the shop for all this. Shout out to Doug and Argent for coming out and helping.
Yes,
We had some
thank
good
you
help
guys.
on this. Yeah, a lot of good people helped on this, and to get to the bottom of it. So shout out to them, man. They really helped out.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I'm so pumped to have this car back now and be able to drive it. So, all right, you
Mike.
get on the road so you won't
Yeah.
hit traffic, and I'm gonna get on the road
to
and
Burbank
start
I go.
cruising. Yeah.
Mike, thanks, buddy.
All right, man.
See
Thank
you,
you.
man. Yeah,
See you later.
Thank you guys.
So what's the whole purpose of building a car like this? Well, it's about driving it, and that's what I'm gonna do right now. Obviously, it's been a long time since I've been able to jump into this car and fire it up, and I'm really excited to just go put some miles on this thing and really enjoy it for what it is. It's such a great platform. The chassis is so stiff. The suspension is really good. The engine makes all the right noises and a lot of power. The transmission is awesome. The way it shifts, the brakes are great. It's just an all-around amazing car. You guys know I've driven a ton of different cars, but there's only a few cars that I go, man, I really like that car and I would want to own that car, and this is one of them. Man, it's been a while since I've driven anything fast. This thing gets down. So I'm just realizing now that all of the rear panels in the car, the interior panels and carpet, I've removed so we can try to figure out why the stereo wasn't working. But it's so loud with all of that insulation and carpet and everything gone that it like rattles. It's kind of funny. This thing is insanely fast, like I said, and the way it shifts, it just keeps putting that power down. It doesn't have that like lag in between the shifts. It's pretty impressive. And you can hear it, it sounds so raw, like it's a race car, because all those panels are out of the rear. So yesterday, well, I was driving home and traffic was absolutely terrible, sitting bumper to bumper for the rest of the drive. Obviously at night I could have driven around, but well, family things. Anyway, driving it again today, and now it's raining, and let me tell you, 750, 800 wheel horsepower in the rain is gnarly. This thing definitely gets down, but it's a bit sketchy to drive in the rain. Obviously, you've got different settings and different modes that you can put it into, like the comfort mode is really, really tame. But when you put it in race mode in the rain, it's a lot of fun. But you do have to be pretty heads up. Man, this car is so much fun to drive. It handles really well. It's got that super stiff chassis with a KW coilovers on it. Feels like you're on rails. It's also got the Valvetronic exhaust system with the PTG built engine, with their upgraded turbos, with their tune. This thing is an absolute beast and I love it. Now I've got to make the decision. Do I keep this car and do I store it here and pay for storage and pay for insurance and just drive it when I'm in town, which honestly I don't think is going to be that often. I'll be here maybe once every few months for a week or two visiting family or something like that. But does it make sense for me to keep the car? What do you guys think? Or should I just sell it? Should I sell it after doing this whole build, spending all the time and all the money to get this thing together? It's a tough decision. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm undecided right now, so I'll have to figure it out pretty quick because we are going to be going back to the boat in the next probably 3 to 4 weeks. And once that happens, I don't think we'll be back here for months. So got to make this decision soon. Anyway, thank you guys for watching again, and we will see you next Saturday.